Hi everyone, welcome to the Whiteleyverse with me, Connor Whiteley, for another daily short story. Now, before I start today's story, please remember to like, comment and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new content, and the engagement really helps the Whiteleyverse with the YouTube algorithm. Also, if you want to buy this short story and any of my other fiction, then they're available from all major ebook retailers and at your local bookstore and local library if you requested, and you can order paperback copies from Amazon. Now, here's today's short story. I hope you enjoyed just as much as I did writing it.
Love and trains through the years. I, Gabriel Darling, had always flat out loved the wonderfully modern, comfortable and red fabric seats of the train from London, St. Pancras, near where I went to university, to Newcastle up north. There was free Wi-Fi, which was always brilliant, and compared to other trains in the UK, this one was just so modern and great in ways that a lot of other trains simply weren't. I was sitting near the very back of the train when it happened. I had met the love of my life, not that I actually knew it back then. I was sitting next to the massive window that these sort of trains had, and I was people watching to see who was on the platform. There were so many fit businessmen and women in their black dresses and suits as they rushed towards their trains. They all probably wanted to make it home for Christmas, something that was only a few days away. There was a particular family that caught my eye. It was a man in a business suit, a wife in a very thin dress that wasn't cut out for December at all, and two young daughters in matching Christmas jumpers. Not that either one looked happy to be wearing it. They just looked so bright and happy compared to the cold, wintry gray of the train platform. Something jerked me in my delightful soft seat, and I weakly smiled as more and more people of all different shapes, sizes, and heights walked past me to get to their seats. It was a shame a bunch of them were banging their suitcases against the back of my seat as they placed them on the rack, but that was life, and I was just looking forward to finally going home. I would get to see my mom, dad, and my brothers. Their girlfriends might even turn up, which they probably would, because me and my parents were starting to doubt my brothers actually had girlfriends. They always spoke about them, but we never saw them. The sweet aromas of chestnuts, cloves, and mulled wine filled my senses as a bottle of something was cracked open by the people in front of me. The laughs that came from them were definitely female, and I was just glad everyone was enjoying the holiday season. I went to reach down to grab my large science fiction book that I was working my way through when I saw someone was looking at me out of the corner of my eye. "Excuse me?" the man asked. I almost shivered at the sound of the man's deep, manly, velvety voice. It was so intense and so great that I really wanted to hear his voice again and again. When I looked up, it took everything I had not to come right there and then. I was looking at the most beautiful man I had ever seen. My body shook slightly, and as much as I wanted it to stop, I just couldn't. The man was solid, short, and seriously fit. He didn't have any muscles, he didn't work out, but he was as thin as a rake, and he was just stunning. The way his longish brown hair flowed was beautiful, and his youngish boyish grin was just striking. He was a stunner, and I was really hoping he was going to be sitting next to me for the next 4 hours. "Did you go to University College London?" the hottie asked. "You take English literature, right?" I cocked my head. "Yes, why do you want to know?" "Oh, sorry, I guess that sounds a bit weird. I thought I recognized you. I do classics, and your lecture is right next to mine on a Monday, and I thought I had seen you a few times. You're a little hard to miss. I'm Thomas, by the way." I grinned, and I gestured the man to take a seat. I flat out loved it as he sat down next to me. I got a delightful whiff of his manly musk and some spicy clove-scented aftershave. I was really going to enjoy these next few hours. And that was what happened. For the next 4 hours, we spoke constantly, and we learned everything there was about each other. I learnt he was a stunningly hot man that loved classical history, literature, and really understanding the past. Originally, I had doubted the classics could ever be important, and they were just for university students that didn't want a proper degree. But it turned out I was completely wrong. Or at least, Thomas had such a passionate and interesting way of talking about his subject that I was hooked on every beautiful word that poured out of his mouth. And it was interesting when he was asking me questions about my degree. We both agreed that English literature degrees were useless because I had no intention of going into teaching, and my degree wasn't exactly what I thought it was going to be about, so I was changing to classic history, to be honest. Again, not exactly useful, but it was interesting, and my dad worked at a major northern museum, so I did sort of have a job at the end of it. When my train pulled into Newcastle, we had exchanged phone numbers, wished each other a happy Christmas, and I had almost kissed him, but we hadn't. He was still the most beautiful man I had ever seen, and for the next 2 days I couldn't stop thinking about him. Then it was Christmas. Me and my family had visited some family in France over New Year's, and I had loved the winter break. And when the university term started again, my lectures had moved, and I never ever saw that cutie beautiful man for the rest of the year. I had texted him, of course, but he had never ever replied. The next Christmas, I was thankfully sitting up near the front of the train, and I didn't have any of those annoying people banging their suitcases into the back of my seat. But I actually would have preferred that, because this year I had 2 little kids, boys obviously, who were kicking the back of my seat constantly. The mother had already threatened to cancel Christmas for them. She had apologized time and time again, but she was a single mother, and when it looked she was about to cry, I had hugged her and told her it was okay. It wasn't, but it was nearly Christmas, so I didn't want her any more stressed than she already was. Besides from the constant kicking of the 2 kids, it was a nice enough train, and it was a shame I didn't have a window seat, but I didn't mind too much. The train smelt of grapefruit, lemons, and limes from the cleaning chemicals, and I was just about to open a non-fiction book on ancient Rome when I saw someone out of the corner of my eye. "Hello again, Gabriel," Thomas said. I frowned, and I looked up at him. He was still so beautiful, so stunning, and he looked exactly the same as last year, which was perfect. My body shook slightly. My heart rate increased. My mouth went dry, but I was still annoyed at him. He sat down without permission. "I'm sorry I never replied. It wasn't that I don't like you, I really do, it's just I don't know how these things work." I could only nod as I enjoyed his sweet fruity aftershave that was overwhelming my nose in a very, very good way. And I wanted to see where he took this conversation. "I know you probably think I always get guys and hit on, but I don't. I only came out a week after I met you, and that went great, but I was still learning how all this gay dating works," Thomas said, grinning. "And when you did figure it out," I said, wanting to just start talking normally with him. "I don't know. The university term started up. I went to a lot of queer events and you were never there. I got deadlines, assignments, and I forgot to text you." I wanted to hug him as he looked at the floor like he had committed some kind of crime, and maybe he had to be honest. Maybe he had committed a crime against my heart. I had texted him. I had wanted to go slow, and I had shown a lot of interest. I hadn't even dated this entire year because of him, and that was bad. I had basically put my heart on the line for him this year, and he hadn't even been bothered to text me. The train jerked as it left the station, and I just hugged Thomas and felt something hard press against my leg. "How about we just talk now?" I asked, enjoying the sweet fruitiness of his aftershave. "And we can get to know each other like we would have through texting." "I would really like that, Gabriel." I grinned like a little schoolboy, as that is exactly what we did for the next 4 hours. It turned out that Thomas had had an even more interesting childhood than I did, in terms of being gay. My family had always been supportive, loving and encouraging as hell towards me being gay and whatnot. Whereas Thomas's family had never ever been homophobic, they were hardly vocal allies, and Thomas had never really felt great enough to come out, so that was exactly what the past year had been all about. Thomas had been exploring, learning, and just seeing the sort of gay person he wanted to be. He didn't like being with the stereotypical gays, because that wasn't him. He also didn't like hanging out with the partying gays, because he wasn't a partying or clubbing person, but I was really happy that he had found some friends with the nerdy gays, and I had laughed about that a lot ever since. Yet I was a little surprised that Thomas hadn't kissed, had sex, or done anything with a guy except hugging them and even holding a hand in public. Which was probably a much bigger deal to him than it was to me, because I've been doing it for close to a decade. What do you think? Thomas asked as we both sipped some sweet piping hot lattes that we had both ordered. And I was surprised at myself as I replied, because I was actually proud of him, and I felt amazing for him. I had never felt so happy, so proud and so excited for another person in all my life. I was sitting next to a beautifully hot, sexy man that was just starting to learn how amazing being gay could be. I was so excited for all the things he was going to realize in the future. He was going to experience how amazing kissing another man was, how sensational gay sex was, and how lovely just being in a relationship with another man was. He was going to be happy, so happy, and oddly enough, that made me so damn happy in return. And that was how I knew. I just knew that I was seriously falling for beautiful Thomas. We had spoken for 8 hours straight basically, and there wasn't an awkward moment, a silence or anything, to be honest. It was just a wonderful conversation that I didn't like to end as we pulled into Newcastle Station and I hopped off and he continued towards his home. But this time he texted me over and over. That particular Christmas had to be one of the weirdest Christmases ever because I flat out loved spending time with my family, seeing my family in France, and just enjoying my time back in Newcastle. But I also felt fantastic because every single day, without fail, I was texting a beautiful man that was really into me. We spoke about our Christmases, our presents, and our lives. And we even made plans together once we got back to London. And we did those plans to the letter, and we loved every minute of it. I basically moved in with him straight away once we were back. I was fast friends with his 3 flatmates. We laughed and spent a lot of nights together. I showed Thomas all the wonderful delights that being gay brought a person, both the social and the adult benefits, and we had even gone on a few trips together to France. My family flat out loved Thomas from the moment they met him, and I couldn't blame them. The next Christmas, as the train went smoothly along, going towards Newcastle, because beautiful Thomas was staying at mine this Christmas, and then we were going to his for New Year. We had spoken for 3 hours straight, and then Thomas had fallen asleep, and I was just hugging him. I had my face buried in his neck as he slept, and I enjoyed the wonderful feminine aftershave that I had brought him as a little present for myself, as much as it was for him. And I couldn't believe how lucky I was, because I had a boyfriend I basically loved at this point. I was living my best life, and I was so looking forward to this Christmas and all the Christmases after that. We might have met on a train and fallen in love because we met on a train at Christmas, but our love was a lot deeper than that. A type of passionate, wonderful love that made me feel warm, light, and incredible. Something I had never experienced before, but I was so excited to keep feeling it whenever I saw a beautiful Thomas. Something I was going to keep doing through the years, because I really did love him, and he really loved me too.
Welcome back everyone, it's me again, Connor Whiteley. So I really hope that you enjoyed today's story, because I flat out love writing, creating stories and sharing them with you. If you really enjoyed today's story, then please remember to like, comment and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new content, and the engagement really helps the Whiteleyverse with the YouTube algorithms. And if you want to buy this short story or any of my other fiction, then they're available from all major ebook retailers, and you can get them from your local library if you requested, and you can order the paperback copies from Amazon, your local bookstore or local library if you request it. Lastly, if you want to support the channel on a one-off basis, then you can now buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Connor Whiteley. Also, if you know anyone who would enjoy today's story, then please share it with them. I'm always really grateful when you wonderful people help spread the word about the channel. So, thanks for watching the Whiteleyverse, and I'll see you again soon. Have a great day, everyone.